Sometimes crazy needs crazy because we understand each other. Hey everybody. So this is the second video for my brother's part, the section called Degree of Disagree, which basically means we always have a degree of disagree, whether it's totally agree or totally disagree. It's a degree of it. He came up with that. I like it. And this one is Silver Linings Playbook, written and directed by David O. Russell, and it starred Bradley Cooper, Jennifer Lawrence, and Robert De Niro. And I gotta say, it was a lot better than I was expecting. David O. Russell does good stuff. I mean, don't get me wrong, but whenever I hear about people or movies that are about crazy people or bipolar or schizophrenia, a lot of times I'm afraid they're going to get it wrong and then stigmatize. Because I'm bipolar. I'm technically bipolar 2, so I'm not as bad as the Bradley Cooper's character in the movie. But I understand what he's thinking about. I mean, it makes sense to me. And he nailed it. David O. Russell's script really nailed what it feels like to be bipolar sometimes. And Bradley Cooper and Jennifer Lawrence, they did a great job acting like a bipolar person. Now, there's a couple of things I wanted to talk about. In the movie, there's lots of confrontations, which is something that happens with people that are bipolar. And it was a little hard for me to watch those parts because I'm a fixer. So whenever I see confrontation or people arguing, it's hard for me to not do anything. Like, I want to get in there, calm everyone down, and then explain why this person is feeling or acting or saying this way so that this person understands, because they obviously don't understand each other. That's why they're yelling at each other, because they don't understand each other. And I like to explain that so that it diffuses the situation and then actually help whatever the problem was. I try not to do that because it's not always my place, but I spent a long time trying to understand my own bipolar, and I tend to be very good at explaining to other people what I'm thinking or what another bipolar person or someone that has a mental issue, what they're thinking about. And it really helps for people to understand, because normal people don't understand it. It doesn't make any sense to them whatsoever. They're like, why don't you just stop that? You just stop it. Don't do it. Well, it doesn't work that way. And helping them to understand it and explain it in a way that they can understand it really helps those relationships. Otherwise, they just constantly fight all the time. So the confrontation part was hard for me to watch, but it needed to be in there. Had to be in there. There's a couple of things that stuck out to me that really show that they understood bipolar. The single-minded, short obsessions. I have that, where if I'm focused on something, then I can't concentrate on anything else until I finish that, or I'm done doing that. So I don't like being interrupted if I've got my mind set on something. Even a small task like cooking food or wanting to watch a TV show at a specific time because of my mood. Like, I am in the mood for that show right now. I don't want any other distractions. Or writing stuff, doing my YouTube video, doing something for work. I end up focusing solely on that, and I don't want anyone to distract me from it. Now, there are some times where I don't mind being distracted because I'm not focused on one thing. I'm just doing stuff in a broad sense. But I let people know. The honesty to a fault. sometimes we don't have a filter and we just say what comes to our head and then we regret it later. Sometimes we don't even regret it, we just say it. And it's almost like it's an impulse. We don't even think about it sometimes. I've spent a long time trying to think about what I'm going to say before I say it instead of just saying whatever pops in my head. So I've got that more under control. And also, I think he was bipolar 1. Mine's not as severe as that. So even though I understand what's going on with him, I'm not that bad. Um, the desperation to be understood. It's almost like Asperger's or um, uh, some of those other mental illnesses where they end up getting so frustrated because they can't put across what they're trying to say in a manner that the other person understands. And when we can't do that, we get more and more frustrated because we're just not able to articulate what it is that we're trying to say or thinking about for the other person to understand. And so it gets really frustrating and we end up getting angry. So I saw that a lot in this movie. His wanting to communicate something, not able to do it, and then getting really frustrated and angry because no one understood what he was trying to say or trying to do. The impatience comes with that. Mostly, it's not that we're impatient in general, it's more of we don't understand why it can't be done now. You know, we wanted to do it, we wanted something done now, so why can't we do it now? But on the same token, if someone wants us to do something now and we're not in the mood to do it, we don't understand why you have to have it done now. So we're hypocrites, you know. I mean, it's a mental illness. What can I say? We do have difficulty with empathy and sympathy. Our emotions are very internal because they're always happening. You know, we've got stuff in the back of our head constantly about ourselves. And it is kind of selfish. I fully agree that I am very selfish, not on purpose. I just am. And I have a hard time with empathy and sympathy. I can do it. I can feel sympathy for other people and empathy for situations. But I don't really care as much because I've got so much crap going on in my head. And it's not because I'm an a-hole. I'm not trying to be one. That's just what happens sometimes. But they nailed that in there where Bradley Cooper just it didn't make any sense to him why he needed to be empathetic or sympathetic for a situation. He would just say what was on his mind and kind of get confused when someone got mad. And I totally understand that. One of the annoying things that we deal with that they touched on in the movie, which I was impressed about, was that a lot of normal people think medication fixes everything. And it doesn't. You know, I'm on medication. I'm on Lamictal. And the stuff I was on before did exactly what he was talking about. It makes a lot of the medication for bipolar makes your brain fuzzy. It makes you feel like you just woke up all the time, like your brain is underwater. And it's a horrible feeling. We would much rather be confused and angry than to feel like that. And so I understand his hatred of not wanting to take the medication and trying to avoid it as long as possible. I did that for a while. I spent 3 years off medication and studied it myself, my own brain. But I realized I needed to be on something. I can't handle it on my own, but I don't need the almost catatonic brain underwater medication. So the bipolar people really need to work with their doctor to find the best medication for them, because it really is a hit or miss. You try something for a while and you see what happens, and if it doesn't work, then you try something else. There isn't one answer for everybody. So I liked that they had that in the movie. But it is annoying that a lot of normal people think that, oh, just take medication, you'll be normal. No, we are better, but our brain doesn't change. We still have a lot of those thoughts and we think that way and we have our problems still, but it's just not as bad. It's easier to handle. I did like that the people in the movie, like Robert De Niro, the father, they're supposed to be the normal people, but they're just as crazy as everybody else. You know, they just got their own quirks. Like, he's very superstitious. And, you know, some of the people in the neighborhood were just automatically confrontational because they think you can just stop something, or you're just crazy, stay away from them. They don't want to try to understand it. And then things like, you know, his best friend who's in a hard marriage, you know, with this lady, and he's got his own level of crazy because of stress, or his brother who's very into himself and he's got his own level of crazy. So he, you know, Bradley Cooper's not the craziest person in the movie, but everybody thinks he is just because he's been diagnosed. You know, people that haven't been diagnosed or unable to see their own flaws, they just, you know, they see his flaws because they're obvious, but they don't accept that they have flaws themselves. And I liked that. What else? I'm looking at my notes. I love the quote when Robert De Niro drives Bradley Cooper to the Eagles game, and it was very quick, but he was giving him advice. He's like, all right, so don't drink too much, don't hit anyone, and you'll be fine. That cracked me up because it's true. It's like, that should be something obvious. But, yeah, hey, just don't hit anybody, you'll be all right. That made me laugh. The dance sequence. I love the dance sequence because that is bipolar. You start off with one song that's kind of mellow and light, you know, maybe a little depressing in the sound, and then boom, super manic, just jumping all over the place, and then slide into a nice, comfortable ending. That's bipolar. That is a wave right there. That's the entire cycle in one dance. Like, they basically showed you what bipolar felt like in the head through dance. And I've not seen something like that before. I really liked that. I thought it was a cool little thing. And his character grew through that, you know, having something to focus on with the training and the dancing and everything, that it gave him like therapy. It was his kind of therapy without a therapist. I have nothing against therapists. I just don't like them myself. I tend to be more internal. I don't really like talking to a therapist. I think a lot of them kind of sound condescending to me, even though they're not. It's just how my brain works. So I don't do therapy, but I do my own kind of therapy. I talk to you guys. You guys are my therapy. There we go. I did like that sometimes crazy people need to date other crazy people. However, that's dangerous. You have to know what kind of crazy you're getting into. Now, these two characters, they work together well because she would calm him down. He would, you know, handle her outbursts and would calm her down. So together, they helped each other's versions. And the reason I say sometimes crazy and crazy do well together is because they understand each other. They understand what's going on in their head, and they understand that it's not their fault, and that's not what they mean. And so it's kind of, they can diffuse each other's confrontation because they understand what's going on. Now, sometimes that backfires drastically because one of the people is a little too crazy and does not try to understand or doesn't care. And that's where you get into like sociopathic tendencies because there's no emotion there at all. Like, they just don't care, period. And so you either do what they want or you go away. Those kind of people are harder to deal with, and you really need to know what kind of crazy you're getting into. Now, I say crazy, but it's kind of a blanket term for, anybody that's not considered normal. I don't think you need to be normal. I think most people are not. I think the word normal is the very minority, and they're usually people that just try and conform to what everybody else wants. They don't want to think outside the box. They just want to be accepted, and will do anything necessary to be considered normal. They feel comfort in that, being accepted. And that's where you get those, kind of cliques like in high school with the pretty girls and the jocks and goths and whatever else. Everybody wants to be accepted, but then they think they're normal when they're not, or they pretend too hard, and then eventually it hurts them. I think people just need to be themselves. And if you can't accept somebody for who they are, then don't talk to them. There's nothing wrong with that. If I don't get along with you, I don't get along with you. I might not be the kind of crazy you want to know. That's fine. It doesn't hurt my feelings. I have other people. It's not like I'm friendless. And I got family. So, don't try to fit yourself into someone else's ideal. Just be yourself. If people like you, they like you. If they don't like you, they don't like you. It's all good. Well, all in all, going through all of these like mental and philosophical things, but all in all, I loved the movie. It was refreshing to see a real take on bipolar. That you don't get that very much. There are movies on other mental illnesses, but not bipolar, so that was nice. Thank you, Adam, for the suggestion. And if you guys have seen it, let me know what you guys thought in the comments below. I'm also going to have a link in the description for the trailer, so you guys can check that out. And if you like this video, like, share, subscribe, tell your friends, and I will see you guys on the next video.